Hello. So for my screencast here, I'm just going to kind of do an overview of what I'm working on for the inquiry project. So the question that I'm working with right now, the how might we, is how might we encourage people to explore the wilderness for the first time? So this is, you kind of see it's like a half a semester project here, and this is aimed at college students. So this would be kind of an extracurricular activity for them to help out with. So the idea is to plan a trip that would be accessible by people who have never really done any camping or hiking before, to create an environment where people would be comfortable to come in and try something new. So the inquiry part of the trip is for the students who are designing the trip to kind of think about how can we invite people into this kind of trip, and how can we make it kind of hospitable and accessible to people. So for each of the weeks here, we'd be going over with the students each one of these components. And this is a Google Sites here. So I've got it set up with some shared documents that we'd be able to share out to the students. So I'll go ahead and open up one of these right now. So during the class, all the students would have access to these shared documents, and this is where we'd start brainstorming things and fleshing out some of the design for the trip. So for planning for your goals, I just kind of primed it there with the how might we question there. And there are going to be more goals to the trip, like is this something that, do we want the trip to be just like a fun experience where people just kind of hang out, or do we want to make some time for like intentionally building friendships and community? So those are the kind of goals that I'm trying to get the students to think through. And this is supposed to be open-ended here because this is part of the inquiry here. It's open for them to set the tone of the trip and for them to set the goals. And then the next week we'd be going over what exactly the activity would be. So this might be like a backpacking trip where we go out and hike and camp, or maybe it's a camping trip where you just set up a base camp and then go out and do day hikes from that. But again, it's all up to them what they think is the best way to bring people along and make it accessible and enjoyable to people who haven't really done this kind of thing before. And then the third week, once we've set our goals and we know what we're doing, then we need to start planning where that's going to take place. So depending on what you pick, that kind of limits your options. Like if you're doing a sea kayaking trip, of course you have to be on the coast. But a backpacking trip, there's lots of different routes. So once they have the goals and what they're doing, then they'll be able to start selecting a route. And this is where we'll also kind of set the difficulty of it, how far we want to go each day, what the challenge level is going to be. And then there's going to be a document where we lay out what equipment everybody is going to need to bring. So some stuff will be provided, like tents or sleeping bags or things like that people may not on their own have. And then there's also going to be a list of equipment for the participants to bring, and this is just going to be like their own clothes, their own rain gear, hiking boots, water bottles. But this will be a very itemized list, so that somebody who's never gone camping can just go through this checklist, and if they follow the checklist, then they'll have everything they're going to need, right down to their toothbrush. And then also have to plan the food for the trip. And the way that I like to do food planning for trips is I break it up into meals, and then for each day you just decide what you're going to eat for that particular meal. This just makes packing and organizing it really simple. So you can just kind of fill out this spreadsheet, and then once we know what we're bringing with us, then we'll do a big shopping trip, get all the food together and pack it up. And then finally, doing risk management. And so this is like knowing where any nearby ranger stations are, or if there's an emergency contact number for like a state park or something. We want to have that information and have like an exit plan in case we have to end the trip early. And so again, this is inquiry based, so I didn't lay out exactly the information that we need to know, because I want the students to think through, like, oh, if we come across a situation, what am I going to need to know? What if I can't call 911? I need to know where the nearest road is, or something like that. So that's the thought process that I want to teach students to think through. So this Google Sites here, I don't have the tech tools and the references attached to this yet, but this is where I'll have all of that other information for the inquiry project. I'll add a few more pages and start bringing in those resources. But everything is going to be held here in Google Sites, so it's easy to manage, or it's easy to invite people to it and share the documents out as we need it. Yeah, so that's kind of an overview of the inquiry project that I'm working on here. Yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes.